Across cultures and centuries, human beings have carried a fascination with the possibility that consciousness is not bound to a single lifetime. The idea of reincarnation, or the return of the soul into another body after death, is one of the most enduring and universal concepts in the human imagination. Whether told in the sacred texts of India, the folk beliefs of rural Europe, or the philosophical musings of ancient Greece, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth persists as a vision of continuity that transcends the apparent limits of one life. Alongside reincarnation comes the notion of karma, the law of moral causation, suggesting that the deeds of one life leave impressions that ripple into the next. The persistence of this idea across diverse societies raises a natural question: why does reincarnation remain so deeply embedded in our thinking, even where it is not officially sanctioned by dominant religions? One answer is that it speaks to the intuitive sense that memory and identity are not fully explained by biology. The fear of death and the longing for continuity invite us to imagine that there is a reservoir of self that endures beyond the body. Another answer is that reincarnation mirrors natural cycles observed everywhere. The seasons return, seeds sprout anew after decay, rivers evaporate into clouds that fall again as rain. To imagine life itself as cyclical, rather than linear, feels natural. Regression therapy has emerged in the modern age as one of the most intriguing practices that claim to touch this cycle. Using hypnosis, therapists guide patients into states of altered awareness where they report memories of lives not their own. These narratives are often vivid, filled with sensory details, languages, and landscapes the patient never consciously encountered. Skeptics argue that regression simply draws upon the imagination or unconscious cultural material, while believers insist that it opens a door to authentic past life recall. The question remains unresolved, but the phenomenon itself suggests that memory may not be wholly confined to the personal brain. If memory exists beyond one lifetime, what medium could possibly carry it? This question bridges spirituality and science, hinting at a deeper architecture of consciousness. Modern neuroscience reveals that memory, even within a single life, is not stored in a simple archive. Instead, it emerges from patterns of connectivity across neurons, sculpted by rhythms of activation. Among the most striking structures involved in this process are the mossy fibers and climbing fibers of the cerebellum. Mossy fibers provide streams of structured information, conveying the context of ongoing experience. They are the steady roots, grounding perception and action in patterns of order. Climbing fibers, in contrast, deliver bursts of disruptive input. Their signals arrive as powerful error messages, forcing the system to adapt and reshape itself. Together, they create the balance between stability and change, between order and transformation. This biological rhythm can be seen as a living metaphor for the myths of ascent and descent found throughout the world. The world tree of Norse and Siberian traditions connects the underworld, the middle world, and the heavens. Its roots anchor deep, like the mossy fibers, providing structure and continuity. Its branches spiral upward, like the climbing fibers, carrying signals of ascent and transformation. Stories of ladders, vines, and spiral staircases appear in mythologies across continents, echoing the spiral ascent of climbing fibers as they weave new pathways. The brain itself seems to embody the same archetypes that humanity has long projected into cosmic stories. Raw signals lie at the heart of this process. In the brain, raw signals are fragments of activity before they are shaped into coherent perception or memory. They are incomplete, flashes of information waiting to be given form by the surrounding circuitry. Dreams, déjà vu, and sudden inexplicable fears may be the surfacing of such fragments. If we extend the metaphor, reincarnation itself could be imagined as the carrying forward of raw signals beyond a single life. These signals, unshaped and incomplete, might wait for the architecture of a new nervous system to transform them into traits, compulsions, or affinities. Children who report memories of past lives often describe them as flashes rather than coherent narratives. They may speak a name, recognize a place, or recall a violent end with striking clarity. Over time, these fragments fade, as if absorbed into the larger pattern of the new self. In this sense, the child's brain provides the mossy fiber structure into which reincarnational signals, like climbing bursts, are woven. The past self becomes part of the larger learning cycle. This brings us to the parallels between reincarnation cycles and the brain's own cycles of learning. Just as each life refines the self through experience, the brain refines itself through repetition and adaptation. Errors are not failures, they are the catalysts of growth. In the cerebellum, climbing fiber bursts drive the correction of mistakes, ensuring more refined action in the future. In spiritual traditions, the hardships of one life are said to drive the growth of the soul, refining its path across many incarnations. The cycle is not static but developmental. Yet another parallel emerges in the myths of Ascent. Human stories often speak of ladders to the sky, of staircases winding upward, of vines connecting earth to heaven. These myths symbolize the longing to transcend limitation, to climb beyond the boundaries of ordinary existence. The climbing fibers of the brain are, in a literal sense, biological spirals that deliver transformative signals. Could it be that the very structure of our nervous system generates the archetypes of Ascent, giving rise to myth itself? Perhaps mossy and climbing fibers are not only mechanisms of learning but also the generators of the metaphors that have guided human imagination for millennia. This possibility leads to a provocative question: are these fibers the biological myth generators within us? When cultures speak of world trees, cosmic ladders, or cycles of rebirth, they externalizing the hidden rhythms of their own brains. If so, then myth is not mere fantasy. It is the symbolic language of biology, translated into story. From this vantage, reincarnation and karma might be reinterpreted. Instead of imagining a literal soul carried from one body to another, we might see consciousness as a universal process of raw signals being woven into patterns, life after life, cycle after cycle. Each incarnation provides the structure through which the fragments are shaped. Karma is not a divine bookkeeping system but the natural law of continuity, the way patterns seek completion across multiple lives. This perspective also reframes the notion of higher order. In the brain, higher order emerges when lower-level signals are organized into coherent structures. In myth, higher order is symbolized by the ascent to heaven, the climb to greater understanding, the return to cosmic balance. In reincarnation, higher order may be the gradual refinement of the self across lifetimes, each life adding new structure to the whole. But does ascent happen inevitably, or must order always resist it? In the brain, mossy fibers maintain structure, while climbing fibers disrupt. The dance of stability and transformation is constant. Too much order and the system becomes rigid, too much disruption and it collapses into chaos. Similarly, in myth, the climb to heaven is often resisted by forces of earth, by serpents, by guardians who demand trials. Ascent is never given freely. It must be won through the balance of persistence and adaptation. This raises the final question: could exploring these patterns be humanity's true quest for the eternal? If raw signals are fragments of memory beyond one life, if mossy and climbing fibers are the biological roots of myth, if reincarnation mirrors the very cycles of learning in the brain, then perhaps consciousness itself is the eternal principle. The cosmos may be woven of threads that repeat across scales, from neurons to myths, from lifetimes to galaxies. The search for eternity is not a flight from the body but a recognition of the patterns that body and cosmos share. Long before modern neuroscience, ancient traditions spoke of cosmic webs, ladders of ascent, and roots that hold creation together. Today, as we peer into the rhythms of mossy and climbing fibers, we find those same images alive within the microstructure of our own brains. Reincarnation, karma, regression therapy, myth, and memory may all be different ways of describing the same underlying reality, that raw signals flow through cycles, waiting to be shaped, again and again, into patterns of meaning. And so the human being stands at the crossroads, suspended between order and transformation. Within each life, we refine our actions. Across lifetimes, we refine our souls. Within the brain, raw signals seek structure. Across the cosmos, raw energy seeks harmony. Whether we call it reincarnation, learning, or ascent, the process is the same. Life is the weaving of fragments into wholeness, roots into branches, chaos into pattern. The eternal is not somewhere else, it is here, in the endless rhythm of signals, memories, and myths, spiraling upward and downward, again and again.